when you get south of Peoria, especially down towards Springfield, southern rust was the issue, and it came in late. A lot of people, especially if you move, north of Springfield, haven't dealt with southern rust a lot. It's something that might come every 15, 20 years, gets blown up on storms from the south.
Hi, and welcome to ILCorn TV. I'm John Klemm, today's host. We are joined today by Ryan Gentle, Agronomy Manager with Wyffels Hybrids. Welcome, Ryan. Glad to have you on the show. Looking forward to getting to know a little bit about you and what it is that you do at Wyffels. So share with us.
Sure, John. Like you said, my name's Ryan Gentle. I grew up over in west central Illinois, kind of in between Canton and Macomb area. A lot of people know the little town of Fairview. We're famous for the livestock sale barn. A lot of people come over to that and sell cattle. Grew up raising corn, soybeans, beef cattle. We had a little seed corn when I was young, so got the joys of learning to detassel and all the fun that goes with that. And as you might guess, I went to the U of I.
I figured that.
To school, and got a crop science degree from there. And then I worked for one of the mega corporations in several different roles, 3 different states for 20 years, all over the place. Did some production, did some sales. I've done a little bit of everything with them. And then it's been almost 6 years ago now, I guess, I decided just to wanted out of the corporate side of the world and decided to look for a little something different, and fell in love, I guess you'd say, with Wyffels and their family story and their independence, and it's been a great fit for me since. And I basically cover the west half of Illinois, so we kind of split at Bloomington, and I go all the way from Galena down to St. Louis, so get to see tons of different crop practices, maturities, diseases, all that type of thing every day in my job. I think a couple different lessons, maybe just reinforced some, but it was quite drastically different what some of your yield limiting factors were, whether you were I-80 north, let's say, in Illinois, or let's say even Peoria, Monmouth, Galesburg, somewhere there to the south. So we saw a heavy tar spot come in late. The I-80 corridor, Quad Cities to Geneseo, Princeton area caught some rains that a lot of later rains that a lot of the rest of Illinois didn't, and that let the tar spot and crown rot really take off. And I think it surprised some people. It come in a little bit later. We sprayed fungicide maybe a little on the early side in some of those cases, right at tassel time, and in a lot of cases the fungicide was long gone by the time the tar spot set in, and it was kind of like not spraying at all. We saw some early death, 180 to 200 on those fields that died early. And if they sprayed, maybe sprayed a couple times or waited more towards brown silk, we were 250 plus in a lot of cases. Completely different story when you get south of Peoria, especially down towards Springfield. Southern rust was the issue, and it came in late. A lot of people, especially if you move, north of Springfield, haven't dealt with southern rust a lot. It's something that might come every 15, 20 years, gets blown up on storms from the south. And I think maybe we just weren't as aggressive probably as we should have been, especially on some of the later sprays. That past brown silk dough stage, we had heavy southern rust, and we did see a lot of yield hits. Southern rust can actually, its life cycle is only a week. Tar spot's 2 weeks. So southern rust can really take off quick and really cause a lot of damage. And I think there's a lot of growers kicking themselves, in the behind a little bit for not spraying, or maybe spraying a second time, because we saw a lot of 20, 30, 40 bushel differences from spraying, not spraying, and spraying a second time.
Now it's time for Tara's Corn Corner.
If you could name a new corn hybrid after yourself, what would it be called?
Oh my. This one's hard. Short yet powerful.
Oh, that is hard. I agree. What's your secret to surviving plot tour season?
Stay organized.
And let's see here. You're stranded in a field with one tool: pocket knife, soil probe, or drone.
Always the pocket knife.
Yeah. Be honest, have you ever taken a field nap and called it scouting?
Not a field nap. No, I have pulled over on the side of the road to take a nap because I was feeling tired.
Great. So safety first.
So here at Illinois Corn, obviously our focus is corn. Wyffels
Yep.
Hybrids, you got the same focus, right? Corn.
Yep.
So what's probably your number one suggestion or recommendation for growers as we go into the next growing season because of what we saw on that to protect that corn crop so that we can have a quality corn crop to export and sell for the following year?
Sure. And like I just mentioned, tar spot is in Illinois. It's probably in residue in about every county anymore. So we know we're going to have a certain level of tar spot probably every year. It just depends on the weather and a lot of things, coming together to how bad it is. So Southern rust is more like I've talked to some of our breeders that have been around 30 years or more, and this was the worst Southern rust in Central Illinois they've ever seen.
First time we ever had it really
Yep.
on the farm. Yep.
Exactly. So I caution people, especially if you're in the Southern rust belt, farther south, Peoria, Bloomington South, that might be a one out of every 15, 20-year thing. And if you pick all your hybrids that just did well against Southern rust and next year it's a tar spot year, a lot of times them are two completely different hybrids. So I've been warning people, make sure you look at multiple years of data here. Don't just base everything on a Southern rust year, because you're probably going to pick the wrong hybrid for next year.
Yeah. Good information. Good tidbits. So as we are in, late winter, pushing up on early spring here, it's time to start thinking about growing season. Hopefully farmers have been thinking about that for a while. But as we anticipate that weather pattern that's going to be coming as we enter the growing season, what are some anticipations that you have on that, and then how should a farmer be positioning himself to plan accordingly?
Sure. I think the number one worry on a lot of Central Illinois farmers, hands anyway, probably even into Northern Illinois, is I actually just looked at Eric Snodgrass's, some of his maps he sent out this morning before this call, and we're really deficient in soil moisture, clear down to that 3-foot level.
Yeah.
Most of Illinois is, 5% or less. We really need a recharge. Luckily, that snow we had in December was blanket enough. We didn't really frost over and that melted and got into the ground and did help some, but we are still seriously deficient. There's a lot of dry creeks still in my world, a lot of guys hauling water to their home wells in the country. We need a recharge. Looks like hopefully Eric's thinking later here in January, there looks like maybe some chances for some more winter storms coming that could help, but we're going to need a lot of rain, a lot of snow without frost in the ground to let it soak in. That's kind of my number one worry here moving forward.
Should a producer, maybe rethink that optimal planting window, or kind of stick to their, tried and proven time frame, knowing how dry we are at this time?
Yeah, I think it's just going to have to be more of a wait and see probably when we get, closer to the middle part of April. Usually we have,
We get
in
water.
our Central Illinois soils at some point we'll get a rain. As long as you got some moisture at that 2 to 3 inch level where you're putting your seed in is good. The conditions are right. And then, I want to make sure I'm looking at that forecast 10 days to 2 weeks out. And you don't want that 25 degrees after 2 inches of 40-degree rain. That's
Yep.
what gets us in a lot of trouble with the corn crop. Where soybeans, I know we're on a corn call and I'm a corn company, but soybeans can tend to fight through that cold stretch, cold soil a little better. We've found lately than corn can. So
Absolutely.
I like to plant on those iffy days, where the neighbor's rolling, you just can't stand it. You're sitting around, go put the bean planter on and plant beans for a day or two until it gets perfect, and that's when you want to plant your corn.
Yeah. Continue that conversation just a little bit, if you would, on maybe some practices specific a little bit more to conservation management, whether that's cover crops or other things. You said you've been with Wyffels, I think, for 6 years. I think you said, Ryan, you've probably seen a change in the tide there of what guys are doing, conservation practices and why. So does your recommendations change as those practices continue to change?
For sure. I think when you're talking cover crops, there's definitely a lot of things you have to think about, especially if you're planting corn. I really like to see that cover crop terminated before you try and plant into it. I've seen some train wrecks trying to plant into green cover crop that's 3 foot tall. Especially a couple years ago, we had a super dry June, and we had a lot of corn didn't even germinate. The cover crop sucked up all the moisture, and there was still dry kernels, corn sitting out there the 4th of July when I was out digging. So I like to see it terminated if at all possible ahead of time. I know that depends on spring weather, but and then if you have a heavy cover crop, you need to probably let that soil warm up a little bit. It's definitely proven it can stay 4 or 5 degrees colder if you have a tilled spot versus a cover crop. I've measured soil temps side by side where they've tilled part of a field and left the cover crop in part. So let it warm up a little bit. Make sure you're not planting into mud. I've seen some, it doesn't dry out as fast either, and I've definitely seen some sidewall compaction getting planted with cover crop. A lot of guys have also switched to strip till, which I think is a great practice. Leave some more residue, helps with soil erosion, but you can get that furrow warmed up. It seems to dry out a little faster. Some guys ban their fertilizer in there. Definitely a fan of strip till.
Well, really, what I feel like I'm hearing from you is don't change the way you evaluate if it's time to plant or not, but understand that because you have that cover crop, your time to plant might not be the same as the guy without cover crops. So just
100.
continue to know the soil, know the conditions, and assess accordingly, right?
Yep, 100%. And I always tell the cover crop guys or no-till guys, if they had a lot of winter annuals they had to burn down, that's just a magnet for cutworm and armyworm too. And I've seen, not this year, but the year before, we had some pretty solid cutworm infestations in some of those fields. So just something to keep an eye out for too.
Well, we're going to bring up the not to be corny section here, Ryan, lighten things up a little bit.
I should star here.
Say that again.
I should be a star here.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So not to be corny, but how do Wyffels seeds get to greet each other?
I don't know.
They simply say, long time no seed. You can keep that in your books and end one of your own sessions with it if you want and get a little chuckle from the crowd. So is there anything else that you'd like to share with the listeners before we wrap up, Brian?
Nope, not really. Just you don't have all your seed bought, go find a Wyffels guy. We're all over the countryside out there, and good luck this spring.
Yep. Thank you for your time. Thanks for the insights, and we look forward to talking again.
Thank you.